Shout out to G-Man Boxing.
Alright people, midweek report time. Let's start with news that broke today, actually broke this morning, that Inoue will rematch Donaire on June the 7th in Satimana Super Arena in Japan. So, rematch of their classic fight in 2019, of which Inoue was successful. It was a great fight. It was one of the fights of the year in 2019. It was brilliant. You had Donaire down with a body shot. You had him hurt a couple of times. You had him actually stunning Inoue quite badly. And it showed that Inoue isn't one of them punchers who can take it, or who can give it but can't take it. You're taking... Now, it was a right hand from underneath the Donaire. And Donaire's best shot, his hardest shot, the single hardest shot at bantamweight, is underneath the Donaire's left hook. That didn't land. It was the right hand. Nevertheless, Donaire is still a massive puncher at 118. So if you're taking his right hand, obviously you're going to get hurt, because he could hurt pretty much all. Well, in fact, I'd be surprised if there wasn't a super bantamweight he couldn't hurt with that right hand. But if you're taking that, you're staying up, and you're still fighting on. And I think he had a detached retina from like the fourth round on. Like, it was not an easy fight for Inoue at all. It was a competitive fight the whole way through. Some of the scorecards were a bit too wide, but Inoue was the winner, rightful winner. And we're having a rematch of this. I love Donaire Donaire as a fighter. I think he's a brilliant guy, stand-up guy. He's older now. And that's the thing. I don't see him winning this fight personally. He has taken on Father Time several times and come out on top, but I think this one might be the one where Father Time says, "Oh, I got you now, son." I think that might be the one. Look, it was a great fight first time around. The one thing I kind of wondered about, and this is a minor nitpick, but it's something that you need to bear in mind, is that Donaire always uses Everlast gloves. Now in Japan, I'm assuming he had to use winning gloves. Now winning gloves, they're not typically gloves that most fighters, especially a puncher like Donaire, would wear, because they're very heavily padded. But winning gloves are made in Japan. They are pretty much worn by all Japanese fighters. And look, I'm not saying that's the reason he lost, but I think that maybe, let the guy have the gloves he wants. Don't make him wear winning gloves if he doesn't have to, because he's not worn them before or since. He's gone back to Everlast. So I wonder if that might have been just something. Other news that was reported today: Danny Jacobs versus Munguia, June the 11th, the week after. More than likely it will definitely be on the zone. 164-pound catch weight. So Danny Jacobs will be technically coming... Well, he'd still be at super middleweight, but it's a catch weight in around that. I remember Canelo doing that when he brought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. down to that weight. Jacobs is not the Jacobs. Like, it's been 5 years now, quick 5 years, since he fought Triple G. He's not the Jacobs of that. That Danny Jacobs was explosive, athletic. He went for the jugular straight away, which he did. We don't have that Danny Jacobs now, I don't think. I don't think we have that. I think we have a much more reserved Danny Jacobs, someone who looks to box his way, fiddle his way, and just, I don't want to say spoil his way to a decision, but if the Danny Jacobs who fought Peter Quillen, the Danny Jacobs who fought Triple G, even Canelo a few years ago, had been in the ring with John Ryder that night in the Alexandra Palace, John Ryder would have gone knocked out before the 7th round, in my opinion. Munguia is better than John Ryder. He is more relentless, more aggressive than John Ryder, and I think he'll stop Danny J. I think this is the fight where Jacobs gets stopped. Obviously, he's been stopped before by Pirog. Was it Pirog? Dimitri Pirog? Yeah, it was. It was, wasn't it? Or am I thinking of someone else? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was the guy's name. Was it Pirog or was it some other guy's name? Oh, that's going to annoy me now. But anyway, look, moving on from that. That's who Jacobs looks set to fight. Let's talk about the two main topics. So, obviously, TalkSport released an article the other day where it was saying that Saudi Arabia looks almost set to take the Anthony Joshua Oleksandr Usyk fight, because they are offering something like 120 million, a ridiculous amount of money for that fight to be staged there. Now, obviously, I would have liked to have gone to that fight if it had been in the UK. I might still get over to Saudi Arabia, I don't know. But it's easier to travel to the UK and back to Ireland. Much easier than it is to go to Saudi Arabia, obviously. But if they're throwing that kind of money around, you would imagine that that would likely happen in late... They're saying late June, Saudi Arabia. You know, interesting. I know AJ's fought in Saudi Arabia, obviously in the Ruiz fight. I think that was called the Clash on the Dunes. Usyk versus AJ in Saudi Arabia. You know, Usyk strikes me as someone who is I don't think you can... I'm not going to say you can't, but he is someone who is just so mentally switched on, so mentally strong, that you could probably put him anywhere in the world and he would just not... It wouldn't faze him. Do you know that sort of way? Like, I mean, if he was good at darts, you'd say you need to hit double one for £1 million, and he'd just go up and throw it. It wouldn't faze him. He's that kind of guy. Do you know, sort of way? Like, he just doesn't seem to let anything get the better of him. Certainly mentally, anyway. And I don't think that would bother him particularly. Like, I could be wrong, but you never know. I don't think that would personally bother him mentally going to Saudi Arabia. I know AJ's been there loads of times. I mean, he's trained out there. He's fought out there. Eddie Hearn, you know, the atmosphere won't be as good, obviously, as it would be if it was in the UK, because, you know, for several reasons. I mean, you're not in a big, massive stadium. You know, alcohol, I'm still pretty sure you're not allowed alcohol at any of them events. I'm pretty sure it is anyway. So you're dealing with these normal kind of football fans who are sober, and they're a lot quieter when they're sober, so they don't have the same... You know, they don't have the same obnoxiousness, you might want to call it, for want of a better word, because some of them, when you hear some of the chants they'd be saying to some of the fighters going into the ring, you're just thinking, Jesus. So the atmosphere mightn't be as good, but I wouldn't be shocked if they did it there. I really wouldn't be shocked if they did it there at all. I mean, like, at the end of the day, money talks. They'd easily do it. I believe they'd easily do it over there. I believe, and you know, the Saudis, that kind of region of the world. Like, if you look at like a lot of other sports, they've been going there. You know, I know WWE are bringing a lot of shows there. F1 just had the race there the last weekend, which was a brilliant race, by the way. If anyone is into F1, they'll know it was a brilliant race in Saudi Arabia. That track is fun because it's dangerous. It's a really fast flowing streets track, which it's really dangerous, which makes it fun to watch. So, you know, Saudi Arabia they've been taking a lot of sports on lately. So I don't know, I reckon I wouldn't be shocked at all if they did do it there. In terms of some of the other news that's been going around, oh yes, Tyson Fury. We'll talk about Kell Brook now in a sec. I've obviously done a video on it, talked about it in a separate video. Jarrell Miller into camp for Tyson Fury. People were telling me that Jared Anderson has actually pulled out of his fight as a result of an injury. I wasn't aware of that at the time. And that's a shame. Now, to be fair to Jared Anderson, he was fighting Christian Hammer. I don't think that would have been a particularly fun fight, to be honest with you, as good as Anderson is. Hammer has a way of just... He has a way of just spoiling, do you know, sort of way, like, he's just... He just has no ambition to win. I know it's gone off BoxRec now. I haven't been on Twitter in days. I haven't been on Instagram in a while. So I'm not checking any kind of social media things, if you know what I mean. So in that way, I wouldn't have known if he broke the news on Twitter or something. I'm not really watching it. Like, I'm reading off Twitter here, but I'm not signed in. So I didn't know. If he is, then, you know, it's a shame for him. I would have liked to have seen him over in the UK at the end of the day against Hammer. But him having Big Farmer in, Jarrell Big Farmer Miller, as we call him now, as I said in that video, stylistically, he's not really like Dylan White, but having a big unit like this, and Jesus Christ, people, he is absolutely massive. Like, Tyson Fury obviously is taller, but the width of Jarrell Miller, good lord. And you know something, when you see someone in a picture and you see the width of someone, it doesn't do it justice. I'd say Jarrell Miller would have to walk through it like a door like that in some places, because he's just absolutely massive. You know, he really is. And, you know, obviously we wonder what he'll be like when he comes back. You know, again, as I said, that's a whole nother debate. Should he be a left back? That's a whole nother topic in of itself. But it would be interesting to see what he would look like, or what he will look like, what he's weighing and how he fights when he does eventually come back against whoever that may be. So he's in Team Fury's camp. Chris Eubank Jr. stated that he'd be willing to make the Kell Brook fight, but the furthest he would go down if he was to agree on a specific weight would be 158 pounds. So no lower than that. So he wouldn't go down to 154 pounds. It's not feasible for him. He's always been a 160 pounder anyway. So for Eubank, he just can't do that weight. Understood? But he can come down to kind of 158. So we've seen fighters do that before, where they've stood on the scales for a fight at middleweight. It's been at the full 160, but maybe they've took an extra, pound or two off. Maybe unbeknownst to them, maybe their scales were acting up, and they stand on the scale, they're 158. At the end of the day, Eubank Jr. is not someone who, I'm sure he doesn't find it easy making middleweight, but he's not good. He's not like a Canelo when he was down at 155 pounds, who just looked horrible. I'm sure he doesn't. I'm sure he's obviously feels it on fight week, but I wouldn't say he's thinking an extra 2 pounds. How the hell am I going to do this? I'm sure he's not thinking. I'm sure he's thinking extra 2 pounds. It might not be ideal, but I can live with that. And there's no I wouldn't imagine it be a rehydration clause. So I'd say Eubank is thinking, make the fight. I'll go with that. Now, in terms of other things, Kell Brook. Well, it was actually Eddie Hearn. Say that Kell Brook wanted apparently £10 million in order to face Conor Benn. 10 million. Now that is reaching. 10 million. Billy, put this in context, right? Billy Joe Saunders got, 6-7 million, maybe a little bit more, but in around that ballpark. Dillian Whyte is getting 8 million to fight Tyson Fury. Billy Joe got a similar amount to fight Canelo. You're fighting Conor Benn. No offense to Conor Benn, he is not near their levels in terms of pulling power, in terms of drawing power, in terms of audience. You're asking that amount of money, and the Zone losing money, they lost over $1 billion. You're going to give a fighter 10 million to fight a guy who's not an established cash cow. Yeah, Conor Benn is doing good numbers, but he wouldn't be. I wouldn't imagine he is anyway. If they were doing pay-per-view, if they were stayed with Sky, I wouldn't imagine. Well, they wouldn't put these fights on pay-per-view, like the Algieri, the Chris Van der Hart fight, the fight before that. They wouldn't be putting them on pay-per-view. They might put if Josh Kelly had put one of them fights on pay-per-view potentially, but he's not at that level. And to be asking for 10 million, that's obviously a case of I'll just give you a number that if I get a happy days. If I don't, I'll go and just go elsewhere. Kell Brook is at the end of his career. Judging by what Ben Shalom was saying, next week Amir Khan is looking to have a comeback fight against whoever, with the potential of going into the rematch with Kell Brook then after. So maybe Kell Brook is just thinking, you know what, I will make enough money from the rematch with Khan, and then I can just say, see you later, boxing. Because at the end of the day, for Kell Brook, I'm sure he's thinking of his health. I'm sure he is. Deep down, he must think, yeah, I could go in with him. It might be a hard fight. He might win. Same with Eubank Jr. Or I could just wait until Khan gets his little comeback win, have a rematch, make another couple of million, beat the crap out of him again, and then see you later, boxing, I'm gone. Maybe that's what he's thinking. Maybe that is what he's thinking. The WBO, this is crazy, have Jack Catterall number 3 in their rankings, Ramirez number 4 in their rankings. Both their lawyers have contested the WBO's new super lightweight rankings, which has Liam Parrow, who I'm not really familiar with, at number 1, Teofimo Lopez number 2 for a shot at the vacant title. The WBC said they will hear out all arguments and make a decision. I mean, the WBO and the IBF are probably the two. How do I say? I was gonna say reputable. They've got a better reputation than the other two, the WBC and the WBA. They do. But that's silly. Most sanctioned bodies would order a rematch instantly, or at least let Jack Catterall fight for the vacant title. To move him down to number 3, your former champion Jose Ramirez down at number 4, and I know Lopez. Well, see, here's the thing, right? Lopez lost his title. So it's not like Lopez moving up to 140 as a former champion where they get an artificially high ranking. He's not fought 140. He lost that title in his last fight. So why is he going ahead of one of your former champions at that weight division? I believe Jose Ramirez came back with a win. Didn't he fight Pedraza? So make it that what you will. At the end of the day, like we've seen during the weekend, the IBF gave Lee Selby a final eliminator. His last fight was a loss in 2020. He didn't fight at all last year, and for some reason he's going in to a world title final eliminator to become mandatory after losing his last fight quite convincingly, I felt, to Kambosos. And for some reason he finds himself, I mean, as I said it once, say it again, how do they work these things out? You know, the IBF being sticklers for their mandatories. Okay, why haven't you had a mandatory at welterweight in 4 years? You haven't ordered it'll be the summer of 2018 will be the last time the IBF have ordered a mandatory at welterweight, where Brook, where Errol Spence fought that guy. He fought him in Texas. What was his name? Was it something Capsa? He was terrible. He was stopped in a round. What was his name? That's two names I've forgotten, but they've not ordered a mandatory since then. Crazy. They haven't even put up an interim title. You know, at the end of the day, I don't really agree with interim titles, but when your fighter is out, you know, with an eye injury and with the car crash, I think you can kind of get away with making an interim title then, but they've not even done that. You know, it's just been a case of Spence the champion. We always call our mandatories. Unless it's this, and then we won't. And we'll call it for heavyweight, we'll call it for with this, we'll call it for this, but welterweight, we'll leave that one blank for the time being. You know, so these sanction bodies, it's just how bad do they get? Like the WBA and WBC, they just are in there, like they are just trying to upstage each other. WBA did this. That's crazy. How do I upstage that? How do I get worse than that? They can't be the craziest. I want to be the craziest. That's what those two are like. It's a case of WBA made a really bad move. What did they do? Oh, they made, you know, a super title. That's stupid. We need to make one even better than that, even stupider. That must be the conversations that go on in the WBC and the WBA. It's mental, absolutely mental. I'm pretty sure that's the most recent news that's broke over the last few days. So I'm not really seeing anything else. Obviously, the Kambosos Haney thing, which we talked about in review of the week, I've already kind of touched on that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that fight being announced and seeing how it goes and seeing kind of what way it ends up. You know, if it goes ahead, if Devin Haney wins, does he stay with Top Rank? Does he move up to 100 and what's the weight? 140 pounds? Because he's been talking about that for a while, and then, you know, go in a different route, leave Bob Arum, go back to Eddie Hearn, go PBC. You know, it's interesting. It's very interesting. In terms of some of the fights we have on this week, we have the zone card on Friday in Barcelona, Spain. Sandor Martin, top of the bill. This is his first fight, I believe. Yeah, this is his first fight since that shocking win over Mikey Garcia. You know, Sandor Martin, I expected him to have success against Mikey Garcia. I expected people to be saying Mikey won, but he's not looking like himself. I expected that. I did not expect him to lose that fight. He's fighting a guy called Jose Felix, 39-5-1, coming off a recent loss, actually, only last August, to Tyrone McKenna. I remember that fight. That was on the Michael Conlon and TJ Dehenny card. Stopped by Isaac Cruz, Marcos Villaneas, I don't know who that is, Jonathan Marcello, his name rings a bell. Who did he fight? I would have seen him before. That's the guy Ray Beltran nearly killed in 2017. If you've never seen that knockout, holy mother of God, it was a horrible knockout. He got knocked out by one left hook by Ray Beltran. He whacked his head in the ground on the canvas. I think that was on the undercard of Felix Diaz versus Terence Crawford. So that too, he's fighting. We've got Ricards Bolotniks on this card. He's fighting a guy called Jurjevic Sep, a Croatian light heavyweight. Is he light heavyweight? He's a light heavyweight. He's 36 years old, so he's not exactly young. He's undefeated. Who is he beating? I have Milan. No, I thought that was someone else. Yeah, he's beating literally nobody. So that might be an interesting scrap. It's an 8-rounder. Bolotniks obviously is a decent fighter. Bolotniks, you know, obviously came up short against Boazzi, but you know, he's not a terrible fighter. So that might be an interesting little scrap while it goes. Jorgelina Ganini against Stevie Levy. I'm probably saying that name wrong. Guanini, coming off a couple of losses actually. So she lost to Rachel Ball in 2020, lost to Ellie Scottney back in the John Ryder Danny Garcia fight. Not Danny Garcia, the John Ryder Danny Jacobs fight, and now she's fighting Stevie Levy. She's gonna beat Stevie Levy black and blue. I've seen Stevie Levy fight. She's garbage. She's not gonna do anything in this fight. So you'll probably get a nice knockout. You probably get a nice knockout because Stevie Lee's going to get battered black and blue in that fight. In terms of everything else, I think that's pretty much everything that's been done this week. So, midweek report. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll leave it there. Obviously, we've got... What fights do we have this weekend? We have the Newcastle card on for Sky. Won't be doing a watch along for that. I think I don't know what I'm doing this Saturday, but I'm not doing a watch along for that. I don't know when I'm going to do it. I'll probably do the next watch along for Conor Benn, to be honest with you. So anyone expecting a watch along this weekend, we won't get it. I mightn't get the stream out tomorrow. I think I'm stuff on, but we will try and get another guest on, maybe multiple guests, who knows, in terms of over the course of a few days to discuss Tyson Fury, Dillian White in greater depth and what other people's opinion is as well. So if any YouTubers out there fancy coming on, I would say DM me, but I've not really been on any websites or anything like that. So if you do DM me, I will eventually go back on and check it eventually. It'll be about the next week or so. But that's pretty much that for now. I'll leave you with that. If you could, lads and lassies, help your boy out, smash the like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already. We are literally, I think we're like 80 something, 84, 85 subs off 7k. So let's do it. Middle of April we should be there. For now, lads and lassies, I'll talk to you. Peace.